In association with your undisputed, undefeated king of beers, Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Present 12 rounds of boxing for the vacant WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world. This bout is sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Chairman Dr. Elias Ghanem, Commissioners Nat Carasali, Lorenzo Fertitta, Luther Mack, and Dr. James Nave. Executive Director Mark Ratner. Physicians at ringside, lead physician Dr. Flip Homansky. Attending physicians Dr. James Wishgame, Dr. Al Capana, and Dr. Robert Boy. The timekeepers at the bell and counting the knockdown seconds will be Jane Broadfoot and Mike Lachella. This contest also, of course, is sanctioned by the World Boxing Council. President at ringside tonight, Jose Suleiman. WBC Supervisor, Edward Thangaraja. The 3 judges scoring the contest on the 10-point must system will be Anik Hungtungkam, Larry O'Connell, and Dalby Shirley. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, your referee, Mills Lane. And now for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. From the Las Vegas Hilton, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! In the blue corner, wearing black, weighing 237 pounds, he brings a professional record of 28 victories, 20 by knockout, against 6 losses. This evening he plans a return to glory by proving his victory over 2.5 years ago against the man he now faces was not a fluke. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, introducing the WBC #2 ranked heavyweight contender, the former WBC World Heavyweight Champion, the Atomic Bull, Oliver McCall. And across the ring in the red corner, wearing white trimmed with a Union Jack, weighing 251 pounds. He's a 1988 Olympic gold medal winner, who now, as a professional, has a record of 29 victories, 24 by knockout, with only 1 defeat. And tonight, he has the chance to regain this title by avenging that lone loss on his record. From East London, England, presenting the #1 ranked WBC heavyweight contender, former WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox Lewis.
All right, hey, no, step back. Hey, look.
Here you go.
Now, just a minute.
There you go, that's right.
Oh, wait a minute, Greg. Manny, if he goes right there, I'm not going to call it low, all right?
No problem.
We've already gone through the instructions. This is for the title. I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions from Mr. Lewis's corner?
No problem, no problem.
Mr. McCall's corner. Let's get it on.
Jim, you might call this the civil trial after the criminal trial. Let's see if the verdict is any different in a new venue with a new set of jurors.
And speaking of the venue, a 3-year absence from the major boxing scene for the Las Vegas Hilton, but you may remember some of the times you've been here in the past. For Leon Spinks's upset of Muhammad Ali in 1978, Michael Spinks's upset of Larry Holmes in 1986, the night that Mike Tyson knocked out Trevor Berbick to become the youngest heavyweight champion ever, that was here. Julio Cesar Chavez's dramatic 12th round KO of Meldrick Taylor behind on the scorecards, that was here as well. Round 1 begins. Emmanuel Stewart said that he expected Lewis to be tentative for the first few rounds of this fight until he shakes off the memories of his loss to McCall in 1994.
The memories of that one punch.
Stewart goes on to point out that Lennox is by nature a cautious his fights anyway.
Hey, come on, West, come on, here we go.
Amid all of his turbulent emotions the last time around, McCall effectively followed the fight plan put forth by Stewart. Does he have another plan tonight?
In the early going of the first fight, there was such a look of intensity on McCall's face. It looked like he was in labor. He's been much calmer coming into this round.
Come on, let's go, come on.
Mills Lane asking McCall not to jump on top of Lewis and try to maul him as he's done a couple of times early on. What about Lennox Lewis's jab, George Foreman?
Let's face it, Lennox Lewis can win this fight with just his left hand. If he settles down and just uses his left hand, he won't have any problems at all. Just keep his right hand at home until it creates itself. From long reach, he can do it.
Lewis has a long-standing tendency to paw with the jab or to hold it out there and leave it there. Is it getting any better?
Well, he's got that reach, and when you have the reach like that and the power like that, you can do anything you want, so long as you're not breaking the rule.
That time he hooked after faking a jab. The hook off the jab.
And I got to say that now that we see Lewis in the ring with trunks on, 251 doesn't look bad on him.
Well, he's got a great body. There's no doubt about that. He can conceal it. Trunks are a little high.
When you have that much reach, Lewis can have Oliver McCall slinging and going wild all night and not be able to reach his head if he just stands back, uses his reach. Good body punch by McCall. And when you're 250 pounds, you don't want to be hitting the body much.
Round one, kind of a feeling out round for Lewis. McCall made some noise early and has been largely acquiescent in the last 2 minutes of the round.
McCall jumped on Lennox Lewis, which played right into Lewis's hand.
Here you saw the very eager McCall leaping into the ring before the fight. He didn't seem that eager
Listen,
during the first round.
Use the jab, you'll hit the guy with something. Don't run in, Oliver, because this guy's trying to set you up. He's jabbing, he's out jabbing you.
Right, okay.
But you got to out jab him.
Okay.
Let's take your time and you'll hit him. Don't be anxious trying to hit him with nothing big. Just use the jab, you'll see the big shot. You understand? Now, but stay on top of the guy. Keep him going back. Don't you go back, because this guy can't fight too well going back. He can't throw punches. But if you let him come forward,
Seconds out.
if you let him come forward, he's going to be able to hit you.
Come on, Manny.
George Benton asking Oliver McCall for more aggression, saying Lewis can't fight if he's going backward. McCall was unable to make Lewis go backward in an effective way in the first round, and Lewis comes out and establishes that pumping jab at the beginning of round two. 49 of Lewis's 57 thrown punches in the first round were jabs. He didn't land but 10 of them, but he set the tempo early.
Yeah, you know, Lewis has got to be patient, of course. He's going to be a little reluctant because of the earlier fight in that right hand. Let this guy rush him. His corner told him to charge Lewis, but you never want to follow and charge or punch you around. That's when you get yourself hurt.
Come on, quit grabbing. Come on, Oliver. Quit grabbing. Quit grabbing.
You want to make a puncher chase you,
Grab it, come on.
because he's not effective going forward.
And as McCall threw two wild overhand rights, you saw how wary of that punch Lewis is. Now there's a good stiff jab by McCall inside, his best punch of the fight so far. And Lewis demonstrates exactly what Benton talked about. Doesn't throw punches when he backs up and opens himself up by dropping his hands.
Instead of coming in and clutching or punching, he backs up and leaves himself open.
Hard right hand by Lewis. And he just misses an uppercut that might have done even more damage. So Lennox Lewis begins to throw the right and takes advantage of the charging McCall with that uppercut.
Yes, on this occasion, rather than backing up, he threw the uppercut when McCall was charging him.
And McCall ducks his head and looks away as Lewis misses over his right hand.
Come on, let him go. Get off that hand, come on.
Lewis suddenly finding something with the uppercut here in the second round. That's going to slow down McCall's charges, although here McCall gets to him with a left and a right.
Let him go, come on. Work out.
This when those 250 pounds start working against you. You can't just bump up into a guy with that much weight all night and not start feeling it, the results on your body.
McCall trying to land the right hand over the top again. This time Lewis blocks one.
Let him go, come on.
And fires his own right hand. Lewis definitely looks gun shy when McCall releases the right, but aside from those moments, he's getting the better of Oliver.
Now, this is what you call backing up. Lewis is doing a good job of backing up. Really, you call when he was running backwards. That's not backing up. But he's fighting a good fight, moving back.
Another uppercut lands in there for Lewis as round two comes to a close. A round largely dominated by Lennox Lewis's uppercuts.
Very good. Okay, you got to keep your right hand up. Your right hand is getting a little sloppy, okay? Keep your right hand up and start getting to him a little bit first, okay? You got past the second round. You got to start breaking at him a little bit more. You let him initiate a little too much. Break it in, but you got to start a little faster. Your hands are coming from too long, okay? And the boy's nothing but if you want to look at his film, you're going to see how bad he looks. Anytime he runs, you run with his eyes down, but don't go to the rope. Try to go in a circle and keep your hands up.
George, is he throwing this uppercut correctly or from inside, or is he too far outside?
Well, this is a big man. He's way up there. He'll never be able to throw a perfect uppercut because he's coming from his arms have got to go down to the level of his opponent. So,
and there you saw a good right hand later in the round.
It's going to turn out a bolo no matter what.
By punch-stat numbers in the first two rounds, Lennox Lewis has virtually doubled Oliver McCall's punch output. McCall releasing 57 punches. Lewis throwing 111. 91 of those punches counted by our punch-stat numbers figures were jabs. Lennox Lewis criticized throughout his career for bad balance, getting a little steadier on his feet now as round three begins.
Lewis is doing some good boxing, although Oliver McCall is not putting his punches together. He's trying more to psych this man out rather than whippings.
Are you suggesting, George, that he's trap shooting, looking to lay a trap and just land that big right again?
More than anything else, trying to wait around, and fights go quick, you know.
Another uppercut lands for Lewis. Finding, as George Foreman points out, opportunities to box effectively.
Yeah, that's what he want to do, is to box, move around, save his power for when he sees something perfect. Oliver McCall has got to mix it up and make this boy get wild with him. That right hand in again.
But as long as Lewis is able to stand flat-footed, flick the jab, and keep McCall at a distance like this, there isn't much Oliver can do.
That's true. 3 minutes goes by real quick. You got to remember, Oliver McCall was a bit smaller the first time they fought, so that right hand was delivered a lot quicker.
Be interesting to see what kind of stamina McCall has tonight if this goes into the later rounds. Remember, he was in rehab for one of his multiple substance abuse problems at the beginning of his training camp. Lewis now landing hard right hands from over the top behind the jab.
Now Lewis, if he wants, he can just do that all night. Why change anything? McCall is doing the acting job because he can't do anything else.
McCall starting to look around and mug for the crowd as though he's either bored or frustrated. One thing he's not doing for the moment is winning rounds.
He's hardly fighting right now.
He has so much confidence in his stamina. He's been in with some of the good boxers before, and later on, they wear down.
Good combination by Lewis. Left hook and a right hand over the top. McCall dancing as if to say, you can't hurt me. But Lewis is piling up points easily against a too passive Oliver McCall.
That's what you want your fighter to do. Win every round. If a knockout comes, good.
That was almost a 2-point round. Lewis was so dominant.
Yes. I gave you 2 rounds. I gave him another one. So you got 2 rounds in the bank, okay? I gave you one of them, the other one to him, okay? Working the jab. Feeling all right? Just take your time, son, and start ripping him to the body a little bit now, okay? But you have not pushed him back any. You want to start pushing him a little
McCall
bit
is
more.
doing a very strange thing here, folks.
He's walking around.
He's wandering around the ring. He hasn't gone to his corner, and he's trying to figure out what's gone wrong, why he's not into this fight. The people in his corner are looking at him and wondering what's going on.
And you can see the disgust on George Benton's face.
I wonder if that's against the rules or not. Harold, you know anything about that?
You're supposed to stay in the corner, George, but I tell you the truth, he doesn't have to sit down. You don't sit down, for example. But you are supposed to stay in the corner. You can't wander out into the middle of the ring. The referee should have definitely got it back to a corner.
Oliver McCall threw a total of 15 punches, according to our punch stat numbers in round number 3. And here he takes a hard right hand to begin the 4th. So whether McCall is disgusted with himself, his corner, the referee, Lennox Lewis, the whole occupation of boxing, who knows? Lewis seems unsure what to do as McCall occasionally looks away from him and invites him to attack. This is a bizarre scene. Bizarre scene. What should Lewis do, George?
Well, you got to stay within the rules. Don't break any rules by hitting your guy behind the back or something like that. Then you can get yourself in trouble.
It looks like he's quitting, and I'm surprised that Mills Lane, in his 19th heavyweight championship fight, hasn't gone over and said something to him about, you got to fight, Oliver, you got to fight. That's what Mills should be saying to him, because he's not doing anything. This is one of the strangest things I've ever seen in a championship fight.
Well, on Tuesday of this week.
And he's shaking his head at George as if to say, there's something wrong, I got nothing here. Unless he's playing the greatest game of possum I ever saw.
Right hand by Lewis. McCall able to take it, even though he had his hands down. It's got to be a difficult thing for Lewis. He's aiming punches at a sitting duck here.
I don't know if the referee should let a fight like this go on. I mean, this is not what audience.
Yeah, now Mills Lane is going to call time and have a conversation with McCall. McCall has thrown 1 punch in the round. This is a bizarre display. I personally have never seen anything like it. He's not even looking at Lewis as he walks away.
As far as you know.
All right, let's go to Larry Merchant, who's with George Benton in McCall's corner. Larry?
This man's mind is gone.
George, you're saying that you think he snapped in there?
Well, you're watching it. You ever seen anything like this in your life?
Never. Did you see any sign of anything wrong with him during training?
No, never.
Did you see any sign of anything in the dressing room before the fight?
Nothing.
Do you think the referee should stop this fight because he's not fighting back?
I'm in this man's corner. I won't voice no opinion on that. But although you see this man, he's still there. All he's got to do is fight.
Thank you, George.
Well, Oliver McCall's been talking religion this week, saying that he has found God in his life. That's his new mechanism for attempting to deal with all the problems that have haunted him in the past. Tuesday, he told a group of boxing writers, I'm going to retire after this fight. It's not godly to train for a long period of time to go out and try to hurt another man. Then Wednesday, at a pre-fight news conference, he said, no, I'm not going to retire. I will keep fighting after I win the championship. But something interferes with Oliver McCall's motivation as round 4 closes here.
Jim, I think this fight should be stopped right now.
Yeah, the fight shouldn't go on. I wouldn't want to see.
I mean, this is a farce. What is the old saying? The first time is tragedy. The second time is farce. There's something wrong with Oliver McCall. He's near tears now. He doesn't really want to fight. He's crying in his corner. I've never seen anything like this. He's overwhelmed with some sort of emotion.
Don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself, man. Come on, come on, take some water. Come here.
He doesn't want to fight.
Come on, sit down, man. Sit down.
Oliver, sit down. Now, you want to fight? What's wrong? Huh? You don't want to fight?
Yeah, you want to fight. Come on, man. Come on.
You can win this fight.
Take this boy out here. Hey, man. Go and fight this stuff. This is for your daughter, man. Take this guy out here.
You heard Mills Lane say, do you want to fight? Reluctantly, it seems, he said yes, but it doesn't show on his face.
McCall's share of tonight's purse amounts to close to $3 million.
If I was in the commission here, I would hold that purse up. This is a disgrace. It's almost like you're watching a man come apart at the seams.
Well,
right
in a
front
life
of our
filled with
eyes.
crises, Oliver McCall is having one right now before the eyes of the world, and it's placed Lennox Lewis in an awfully difficult and awkward position. Lewis doing what he has to do.
This isn't right.
You wonder how much longer Mills Lane will allow this to go on, and that's going to be it.
Well, I've seen some strange things in boxing. That is surely one of the strangest.
With a whimper, not a bang, Lennox Lewis has just become the WBC World Heavyweight Champion for the second time in his career. Mark Ratner, Executive Director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, joins us now at ringside. Mark, your take on what you just saw.
We are going to hold up his purse. We are not going to let him cash his letter of credit. We're very upset with what happened. We'll have a full investigation, but he will not get paid tonight.
It did not appear as though he wanted to fight.
That is correct. We're very upset.
Thank you very much, Mark. So now Larry Merchant goes into the ring, and George, that was painful.
Yeah, but this guy's had a painful life for the last few moments. He's been under counseling for drugs, and believe me, there's a lot of young people in that fix, in the same fix he's in. Someone's going to have to help him.
The last thing he needs in his life is the pressure of boxing right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and the crowd is cheering, and I wanted to just get up there and embrace him and let him know it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, because where do you go from here?
Let's hope he can continue to pursue the path of religion in which he now believes, and that can be the reconstructive mechanism in his life.
Yeah, believe me, there are a group of people in this country who's in the same shape he is, and they really need us. And this guy is in bad shape, and he needs us. And I don't know, I'm sorry to see the boxing crowd see something like that, because maybe they're unfamiliar with it, but we see this every day in the lives of young people who got mixed up, got on the wrong side of the track, and they can't get back on.
George, you're a devout Christian. Your belief in God is the central motivating factor day to day in your life. Has it ever made you feel like you did not want to box?
No, this is a job. It's a profession. And remember, there are people out there who in his condition, who are airline pilots, stewardesses, stewards, you name them, we do everything. And so they've probably felt like that. I don't want to go to work today.
Let's go to Michael Buffer, the ring announcers, for the official particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the Las Vegas Hilton, referee Mills Lane has to call a halt to this bout. It comes as Oliver McCall refuses to defend himself, referee declaring a technical knockout at 55 seconds of round number 5. The winner, and now a two-time WBC Heavyweight Champion of the world, the pride of Great Britain, Lennox Lewis.
A stunned crowd at ringside here at the Las Vegas Hilton. You heard the boos. You saw some people throwing cups of ice and beverages on McCall and his entourage as they left the ring. Greg Page removing the gloves from McCall's hands, and McCall discussing with bystanders over there whatever it was that motivated him to stop fighting in the middle of his proposed championship battle with Lennox Lewis. Larry Merchant stands by with the two-time WBC heavyweight titleist.
Lennox, congratulations, I guess. What did you see?
Well, I think the main thing is, you know, I went out there and just asserted myself. I didn't allow him to come in too much. I think he found it difficult to get through my jab. I was just playing with him with my jab, just popping it out, waiting for him to make a move. And, you know, when he started walking away, I thought it was a joke at first. I thought he was trying to nail me into something. But then, you know, he kept on going. So I just picked up the pace and just continued.
Do you think that his idea was to come out, try to land one more big right on you and end it? Otherwise, he really didn't want to fight?
Well, you know, the first time we met, I realized that it was a lucky punch, and I told the world that it was a lucky punch, because he doesn't have enough skill that can contend with me. The main thing, I just went out there and just, you know, put my jab out, and he couldn't really contend with that, and, you know, basically gave up.
Do you think he was having some kind of a breakdown in the ring?
I don't know. I wore these white trunks for a reason, but, you know,
What was the reason?
Oh, just to look good and have a mental kind of stress on him. You know, seeing me come out as a, you know, as a gladiator in some sense.
What do you want to do next?
Next, I want to get in the ring as soon as possible and just continue the winning success that I'm having.
Thank you very much, Lennox Lewis. And now I'm with Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel, first I have to ask you about Oliver McCall, since you trained him for the last fight. Tell us what you thought happened.
I think he almost got like a miniature breakdown emotionally. He was very frustrated. I think the size of Lennox totally had him in awe, and after trying to get in, Lennox did what we told him. It was not a hard jab, it was just a continue like a ranger jab to just keep him at a distance and keep him frustrated. We figured about 7-8 rounds we would knock him out, but he just got totally frustrated because he could not effectively get in, and I think it just got to a point, being that he's such a high-strung, emotional guy, that he just said forget it.
Did he in some sense revert to being a sparring partner after that?
I think to a certain degree he did resemble a lot of the sparring partners that we worked with, and we had watched a lot of George Foreman's films, believe it or not, and we went back to just use that. We call this all the time steadily filling him with a left hand and being ready to take a step back with your right foot as soon as he comes forward, and it worked. And mentally it just broke him down. He was so, when a guy is really charged up and wired up the way that he is, it's very easy to confuse him.
I recall, and I mentioned earlier, that after the first, just before the first fight, he seemed wired up beyond being wired up. We thought he was having a breakdown before that fight. Yeah. He came in a much more low-key way this time. What did that signal to you?
He could never attain what he was that night. That's one of those unbelievable highs. They tried to do it, and that was why Lennox's orders was to not do nothing aggressive. The first round was to clinch him, wrestle him enough, throw him down to kind of slow him down. A lot of what Evander did to Tyson. When a guy is really wired up, you wrestle and do different things to kind of slow him down and get him out of his groove. And after he got out of that charged up mode, it was just a matter of time before he just got frustrated and said, I quit.
What did you tell Lennox between rounds? Because certainly you probably have never had a fighter faced with that situation.
I thought that Oliver was up to a trick. He was just trying to sucker punch to get Lennox to come in. So the first round that he did that, I was a little caution. But after the last time I saw it, I said, just go out and charge him and put a combination of punches together, and he's going to quit.
This question. I've heard stories of Emmanuel, that after this fight, you may go to train Mike Tyson. Would you comment on that?
I'm with Lennox Lewis. Everybody's saying this but me.
So you haven't negotiated, no, and you are Lennox Lewis's trainer.
I've still got work to do with Lennox. We got a fight, I guess, in May against Akinwanda or whatever, and then hopefully after that the fight Holyfield, probably whoever, Tyson.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Jim and George.
All right, let's briefly take a look now at the moment at which Mills Lane elected to stop the 19th Heavyweight Championship fight of his refereeing life. It was an all-too anticlimactic moment for, I'm trying to see a monitor here, an all-too anticlimactic moment for the crowd which paid big money for tickets to the fight, and a dangerous moment as well. Lennox Lewis was doing what he had to do, trying to land big right hands against an Oliver McCall who was barely defending himself, and Mills Lane at that point had seen enough. And now we bring you live to ringside with the referee himself, Mr. Let's Get It On, Mills Lane. Mills, you've had a lot of tough assignments in boxing. That had to be one of the toughest.
It was amazing. I think something happened. I think he suffered some type of an emotional breakdown. It looked like he was crying, his lip was quivering. And then I thought at first he was playing possum. And then he just wouldn't defend himself. And, I mean, there was just no use for it to go on.
Was it painful for you and a little scary to watch Lewis throwing those big right hands against a guy who was barely defending himself?
Especially when he had his hand down with no chance to defend himself and didn't even want to. He looked like he almost wanted to get knocked out.
When you went to McCall between rounds 4 and 5 and asked him if he wanted to continue fighting, did he seem to be indicating to you that he thought he did?
Yeah, he said, I gotta fight. I want to fight. I gotta fight.
But then he came out and did exactly the opposite. Now, you could have disqualified him, it seems to me, for walking around the ring between rounds and not going into his corner.
Well, I don't know. You can stand up. You're supposed to be in your corner when the bell rings, but you can stand up. So I don't think that's a ground for disqualification.
Did you ever consider asking his corner, what the heck is going on with this guy and what should I do?
I didn't ask him what I should do. I don't want the corner telling me, but I did go to the corner and say, what's wrong with your kid? Something's wrong here.
Well, Mills, I think you come out of it unscathed because nobody got hurt, and let's just hope that the next heavyweight championship fight you do has a little more action than this one.
Thanks, Jim, very much.
All right, Mills Lane, one of the greats of his trade. Now let's turn our attention back to George Foreman. And George, it seemed to me that Oliver was trying to send a message to you even during his unusual performance here. He was looking at you from time to time with a look that seemed to say, I'm not sure whether I want to be here. What did you make of it?
I signaled to him to keep boxing. This is your sport. This is a livelihood. We've got kids to feed. Don't ever put this sport to shame. But he looked at me as if to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. And so I figured he had some sort of breakdown today, and he's going to really need to be embraced by his family now. It's going to be hard to live with something like that.
A lot of us felt that Lennox Lewis would benefit enormously from a stirring win here tonight. You know, if he could perform well, attack Oliver McCall, knock out the guy who had knocked him out. Does he gain anything from this?
No doubt about it. He was able to keep him at bay with that left jab and make it look easy. Whenever Oliver McCall tried to throw a right hand, he just waved it off. It frustrated him. That was part of the reason that he just literally quit.
What do you make of the heavyweight division these days, George? Of course, you're back as an active fighter now after having taken a little bit of time away from the ring. You've got Lewis, who holds a championship belt. Holyfield has a couple of them. Akinwande is seen by his promoter, Don King, as a factor in all this. What do you make of the heavyweight division right now?
Well, because of television, a lot of people didn't know previously in the past that boxing has always been like this. It's nothing new. It's the home of the good, bad, and the ugly. But look, the fighters are getting into the ring. They're making a living. They don't have to fight a lot of fights to get a big purse now. They don't have to end up walking on their heels and things of that nature. So, as a rule, boxing is in a good state. Some of the boxers, they're not in such a good state, though.
Well, one of them tonight, obviously, was Oliver McCall, and we told you about the personal problems that have dogged him throughout his life. Obviously, as I told you before the fight, those are bigger issues in his life than whether he wins a boxing match. Larry Merchant's been trying to get into McCall's dressing room to find out what's going on there. Let's see what he's got. Larry?
Jim, I've been trying to get in without much success. Commission doctors have been talking to McCall. We don't know the results of those talks. We've tried to get people in the camp of Oliver McCall to talk to us, but nobody is talking right now. We have heard from George Benton before. It's as strange to him as anyone else. Here, one moment, and Mark Ratner will be with us, of the commission. Mark, what can you tell us that you didn't know 10 minutes ago?
Nothing right now. I'm absolutely shocked. I've never seen anything like this in my 15 years in boxing, and we're very upset as a commission, and we are going to have a full investigation and withhold any money that he would have coming tonight.
What legally can you withhold money, and in what basis?
My attorney generals are right now with us for failure to honestly compete. He did not compete in an honest manner in my opinion, and we are going to do that.
And that's in the rule book?
Yes, it is.
And so can you withhold the entire purse of $3 million to everybody in his camp?
What we're going to do is have a hearing. We'll hold the money until we find out exactly what happened tonight. But he'll have his day in court.
Is there any precedent for you actually withholding the money and not paying him and giving the money back to the promoter and or the public in some way?
There's precedent. We've had fined people before, I don't believe we've ever found anybody the complete purse like this, but we have to have a hearing.
So it's possible that there'll be a major fine on Oliver McCall.
Yes, there will be. There will be. I mean, he'll have his day in court, but there could be a major fine. Yes.
And as far as the purse is concerned, is this a legal matter that's very difficult for you to adjudicate?
Well, I have my 2 Attorney General deputies here right now, and we are discussing it as we speak.
Thanks very much. Jim?
And a final look at Oliver McCall. One thing which cannot be denied, this is a man in severe personal turmoil and stress. In no way was this an act. Oliver McCall would have had to have been an Academy Award caliber actor to have fooled anybody with the kind of stress and turmoil that he was undergoing tonight. Obviously, George, that was entirely real, and at this point, regardless of which side of the fence you're on, I think you got to feel sympathy for a guy like that.
A lot of sympathy, because not only he's just probably tonight the standard bearer for the condition of a lot of people. Really, we're going to have to stop and think about what we're going to do for these people. They're out there, they don't know what to do with their lives, they want to go to work in the morning, but they just don't know what to do. And McCall has problems, and we just can't walk away from it, and it's entered into the ring with us now.
Incidentally,
we have to find some remedies here.
Yeah, we tried to talk to both Oliver McCall and his promoter Don King without success. I mentioned before the fight that if Lewis got a victory here, he might ultimately be headed toward a matchup with Riddick Bowe. A lot of people have talked about that matchup for a long time. Obviously, Bowe is an entirely different kind of boxing commodity now than was the case 6 or 7 months ago. How would you see a battle between Lewis and Bowe at this point?
I think Riddick Bowe, if he takes him about a year or so off, come back rejuvenated, he can whip this guy. Riddick Bowe can, where a lot of other guys can't, because he's tall and he's brave. And that's what you're going to need to fight someone like
yeah, Bowe and Galata are really the 2 guys who are big enough to fight Lennox Lewis on his own terms.
I don't know about Galata. This guy he may want to have a child or 2 first before he goes back to Galata.
Fabulous, George. All right, well, thanks very much. Pleasure as always. Larry, what does this do to boxing's heavyweight division?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Lennox Lewis will now join the Foreign Legion. And in that way, he can meet Riddick
Get himself
Bowe,
ready for Bowe, yeah.
Right, on the shores of Tripoli. You know, tragedy and farce. And nobody really has any answers. The crowd around us is as befuddled as you no doubt are. I've often called boxing the theater of the unexpected, and I think this time we went beyond the theater of unexpected.
Indeed. Well, that'll be it for the moment on boxing. We'll have a final word on what happened tonight in just a few seconds. Let's look ahead to some upcoming programming.